Let's continue with the next chapter from the series, revealing the mysteries of Windows Server 2016. We will proceed by making a Hyper-V virtual machine highly available. Hello friends and fellow YouTubers, this is Nick from NLB Solutions, and after this weird intro that I tried to do, which I think is pretty much a failure, let's continue with the more technical part of things, which is moving on to making a failover cluster with Hyper-V role installed on the servers, so we can test and see if a virtual machine can be made highly available. So for this purpose, this time I have 4 servers that I've configured. One is my domain controller, one is my storage server that you can see right here. There it is. On there I will configure iSCSI disks, which I will present as shared disks on the 2 nodes that I have, which are going to be configured for my failover cluster purposes. And if you're feeling confused, on the top right side of the screen, I've made a I've enabled the BG info information so you can keep track on which server I'm currently moving. Of course, you can I will try to notify you when I move around the servers, but just in case if I forget or if I'm mistaken, on the top right side of the screen you will be able to see the corrective actions that I've taken to prevent any mistakes. So the first step for me to configure this failover cluster for Hyper-V is to configure the shared storage, which later is going to be presented to my 2 nodes, and this is going to be used for failover purposes. So if you are watching my channel closely, my last video was about failover clustering on a file server, and in there I used this NLB Storage 01 server to create iSCSI disks, and later I've presented the iSCSI disks to my nodes. This is the same thing I'm going to do here as well. I'm going to configure 2 disks, which is going to be iSCSI disk 1, and I'm going to make it 10 gigabytes, which is dynamically expanding. I'm going to use the existing iSCSI target that I have, but if you want to know how I've created this iSCSI target, I think that you need to watch the last videos where I configured them. In general, you need to add the servers that are going to connect to this disk, and pretty much that's it. It's not that hard. So I'm going to use this, I'm going to create the disk, close, and I'm going to create another iSCSI disk, and I'm going to name it iSCSI disk 2, and it's going to be 5 gigabytes in size. It's going to be dynamically expanding as well. So again, I'm going to use the existing iSCSI target and create. Okay, now that we have the iSCSI disks configured, the shared storage, I will have to go ahead to my 2 nodes and connect the nodes to this storage. So in order for me to do this, I will switch to my node 01 and will open my iSCSI initiator. In there, I can do a discovery from the discovery portal, and I'm going to add the IP address of my storage server and click OK. It's going to discover the targets and they are currently inactive. So what I need to do is I'm going to click connect, and I'm going to add the connection to my favorite targets, which will make them automatically restore the connection every time the computer restarts. So every time this server restarts, when it boots up, it's going to automatically connect to this target, which is okay. You can see that the status changed to connected, so I'm going to click OK to this message and go to my disk management. I'm going to wait for it to load, and you can see that I have 2 disks One is 10 gigabytes in size, one is 5 gigabytes. So I'm going to bring this online. I'm going to initialize it. Okay, and I'm going to create a new simple volume using the whole size, and I'm going to create a VM storage. So this disk is going to be for my VMs that I'm going to use, and the second one I'm going to bring online, initialize once again, and I'm going to use it for my quorum settings. So I'm going to name it quorum disk. Okay, finish. You will see later in the video, when I configure the failover clustering, it will ask me to configure the failover cluster and in what quorum mode I need to or I want to use. So unfortunately for me, my servers decided to shut down, and this is because I'm currently using the Windows Server evaluation, and the license for this evaluation has expired. So nevertheless, I've restarted the servers and we're up and running once again. But I was in the process of explaining or trying to explain what is the quorum this going to be used for. So when I configure the failover cluster, it's going to ask me what is the quorum mode that I want to select, and I'm going to use this disk to configure the disk majority method, which is depending on your scenario can be different. So the next step, when I configure my disks on my first server, I'm going to check if they are available, and they are at the moment. So I'm going to switch to my second node, you can see right here, and I'm going to open my disk management once again in here. And first I need to connect the scuzzy targets, duh. So under discovery, once again, the IP address of my storage server, so it's 2, I'm going to click OK. You can see right here it's the target name. Click connect, add to the favorite targets, okay. And if I go to my disk management, I will see that I have the 2 disks offline. Here I'm going to just bring them online. Okay. And if I go in here, I can see that I have the 2 partitions available. So the next thing that I want to do on my both nodes is going to be to install the Hyper-V role and the failover clustering feature. So I'm going to switch to my node 1, and if I go to all servers, add roles and features, I'm going to add a role on node 2, which is going to be Hyper-V. Add the features as well. Next. And I'm going to add the failover cluster feature as well. Next. Okay. I'm not going to select the network card for now. Okay. I'm not going to select this option as well. Here I have the default location for virtual hard disks, but I'm going to leave this the default. But please note that you will need to specify the shared storage location if you want the virtual machines to be highly available. Of course, you can move them manually to the shared storage afterwards, and this is the thing I'm going to do, so I'm going to show you. But you can pre-configure here if you know which is the volume name. The virtual machines can be stored in there, the configuration files and virtual hard disks. So I'm going to select the option to restart the host when the installation is complete. And in the meantime, I'm going to go to node 1, add roles and features, and I'm going to select the same on node 1 as well. Okay, and the failover clustering, add feature. choose the default settings again, and restart. Okay. Yes, I want to restart the server because the Hyper-V row requires a restart. So I'm going to leave this to complete. I'm going to leave the servers to restart and we can continue from there. Okay, so now that the installation finished, my servers had to be restarted and they are up and running. So I'm going to open the Hyper-V manager just to confirm that the Hyper-V row is installed successfully. And there it is. I'm going to pin this to my taskbar for easy access. As you know, we administrators like things when they are easy to be done. And what I want to do next is I'm going to configure a external virtual switch that later I'm going to use for my virtual machine that is going to be highly available. And this is, yes, you guessed correctly, the Nano server. Okay, so I'm going to use my network card and apply the settings. And I'm going to use connectivity to the virtual machine temporarily, but I think it should be restored automatically. Let's see if this will be the case in here. And in the meantime, while we wait, I'm going to switch to the second server as well. Open my Hyper-V manager. Okay. And configure the same external network in here. So, Nano server network, external network, apply, yes. So, if I go to my first server, I can see that for some reason my background disappeared, so I'm going to, I think it's the BG info that is causing this. Okay, and let me see. Just to fix that so you guys can see better. Okay. Okay, it's good now. So now that I've configured the external network, which is going to, behind the scenes, is going to recreate my network card. If I go to my network and sharing center and change adapter settings, you can see that my network card is currently disabled. I have another one that is here, but it's not being used at the moment. You can see that the Hyper-V extensible virtual switch is enabled, and this is the Hyper-V network card that was created. And I'm doing this step because I noticed on my preparation for this video that when I configure the external switch, the external virtual switch, it's going to make issues with the failover cluster. So I just wanted to be sure that everything can be configured without any issues. Okay, now that I fixed my second node, I'm not sure why it's giving me so much hard time. I'm going to continue with the next step, which is going to be validating the cluster configuration and creating the cluster itself. So I'm going to switch to my node 01 and open the Failover Cluster Manager. And if you remember from my last video, validating the cluster configuration and the cluster validation in general is a really important step. And if you don't have a valid configuration, Microsoft will refuse to support your cluster. So I'm going to add my NLB node 1 and 2. These are the two machines that I want to configure in a cluster. And I'm going to run all tests. And if you remember from the last video, once again, if you are running the validations on all tests, and if you have a shared storage configured on the cluster, it's going to take the storage offline. So bear in mind, if you are doing this in production and in business hours, it's not going to be pleasant for the end users. So I'm going to pause the video and continue when the validation is complete. Now that the validation completed, I'm going to, you can see that I have some warnings, and if I go through the warnings, I'm going to allow the block content, and so you can see that I have the network, which is expected because I have only one network card per server, which is going to tell me that is a single point of failure, which I expect it to be. But in your scenario, if you are going to configure a failover cluster, it's always a good idea to have more than one network cards. So the other thing that is giving me warning is that there are some updates that are pending, and a reboot is needed to finish. But this is not a thing that I'm concerned at the moment, so I'm going to select the option to create the cluster, and I'm going to click finish, which is going to start the create cluster wizard, and I'm going to create my cluster, which is going to be NLB VM CL. So the cluster is going to be NLB virtual machine cluster, and I'm going to specify an IP address for this one, which is going to be a random address from my from my network space, and I'm going to select, for example, 120. This is just a random number. You can select a different one depending on your scenario. So I'm going to click next, and you need to be sure that the IP address is available and free. So I'm going to deselect the option to add all eligible storage to the cluster. I'm going to add the storage manual, and you can see that the cluster is being created, and as you know, a cluster named object CNO is going to be created on my domain controller for the cluster. So I'm going to wait for the wizard to finish. I don't expect it to be that long, but yeah, let's see. Okay, it's successfully completed, and you can see that I have a warning. I assume that the warning is going to be regarding the network cards. Let me see. Oh, it's not actually. An appropriate disk was not found to configure a disk witness. So as I said, I'm going to add the disk witness manually. So I'm going to click finish to this wizard, and you can see that I have my cluster. It's still loading everything, but you can see that I don't have a witness at the moment. So this is the thing that I'm going to do next, and I'm going to do it from the configure cluster quorum settings. So next, but I don't have a disk first, so let me add the disk first. So add disk. You can see that I have two disks. One is 5 gigabytes, which I'm going to use as a quorum disk, and the other one is 10 gigs, which I'm going to use for my virtual machines. So the disks are available now. So now that I have them available, I can configure the quorum settings. Next. So, okay, select the quorum witness. Configure a disk witness. You can see that you have few options: share, cloud, depending on your scenario, as I said. So I'm going to use, let me see, the 5 gigs disk for the quorum, and click next and finish. And if you are wondering why I need to add this step, is because the failover cluster in general works with voting system. So for example, if I have only 2 nodes in my cluster, if one node is not available for the cluster to operate, it needs more than 50% votes. So we have 2 votes, 50% each. If one node is not available, it's down for some reason, the cluster will not function. So we need to add another voting partner to this voting mechanism. So we have 3. So, for example, if one node is not available, we have more than 50%, we have 66% to be exact, to vote, and the cluster will continue to operate. So I'm going to click finished, and you can see that I have the cluster disk 1 added as a witness